Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Rebecca Adehill Show. I hope that you are having the most incredible start to your week. Today, I am bringing you a conversation for my series, Voices of Impact. And today, I am sitting down with the CEO and founder of one of the fastest growing buyer agencies here on the Gold Coast. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Matt Srama to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's awesome. I've been watching from afar, Rebecca, and it's great we can connect up. And yeah, we're just chatting off air, chewing the fat. I'm sure this convo is going to be an absolute
Good.
ripper.
I know. I have been looking forward to our chat because we've only really gotten to know each other online, bumped into each other once in person at a cafe, and we had a few DMs back and forth. And what I really loved was that you said, hey, let's catch up. Let's see if I can add some value. Maybe I can add some value to you, to your business. Maybe you can add some value to my business. And I just really love that. As a fellow business owner, I think that is such a game changer when you have people around you that simply just want to see if they can contribute or add value in any capacity.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think I used to play professional sport in the NRL, and one thing I realized there as a learning, actually now looking back, it's a regret, right? I probably didn't leverage my network back when I was an athlete. I could get access to whoever I wanted to back when I was a professional athlete.
Yes.
Now that I've retired and now I'm in business, I've realized your network is your net worth.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
You think that has played a huge part in the growth of your business now?
Huge, massive. And I love business. I'm curious around other people. I'm curious around other people's businesses. If you're in business and if you're someone listening in who might be wanting to get into business, it's a lonely journey.
It is, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it takes a unique kind of person to start a business, number one. And we're talking off air. I agree with you. Not everyone is made to be a business owner.
Yeah.
Some people, there's Batman and there's Robin, and you can earn a lot more being a Robin.
Yes, certainly.
You do not have to, don't think being a Batman makes more money, things like that. There's certain roles. So I really believe, like, as you said, the more you can get around like-minded people, build your network. Doesn't have to be from a monetary side, even a support network side, even when times get tough, you're going to look for people to turn to. So that's why I believe, like, you find people who seem like similar values. I think it's important to build network.
And how good is it to get together with people? We were probably sitting here for half an hour before we press record and just to chat all things business, mindset, and what are you doing? And I'm sharing what I'm doing. There is nothing better. And I could sit and have these sort of conversations all day, every day.
Yeah.
What would you say would be probably one of the major sort of qualities you kind of need as a business owner? Someone who's kind of like, is business for me? Do I have what it takes? What are some of the qualities that we need to really thrive in business?
Yeah, it's a really good one. I'd say there's three that really come to mind, Beck. I think number one is an unwavering amount of resilience. Number one. That one just comes straight to mind straight away.
I agree.
The amount of times I was thinking of quitting, it is a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. It was a lot. The amount of times, though, that I've listened to other successful business owners and they were thinking of quitting was a lot too.
Yes.
That gave me comfort knowing that my ability to get through hard times is actually the reason I am good in business.
Ooh.
So resilience is definitely number one. I think number two is an unshakable confidence in self. Because I think business, again, it will knock you down. When you're building something that you're passionate about, not everyone will agree with it, including potentially family, right?
Yes.
When you're building something and you're producing a product, service, and you've crafted it and it's your baby and you're like, and people give bad feedback on it, that can knock your confidence, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I believe the most strength you need to have in business, as I said, is point two, is confidence. Because if you can look in the mirror each morning confident in self, when you step into the field of business, at least you've got yourself to fall back to. I just think you need confidence, because if you don't back yourself, how is someone else going to pay you money?
I did a post on that only yesterday.
Oh,
I said,
yeah.
you must have unwavering belief in what you do and the services that you provide and have unwavering belief in yourself, because how can someone else even bet on you if you can't even bet on yourself?
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's huge.
And I think if anyone's starting to get into business, again, I love even things like therapy and stuff like nothing even to do with business. Just work on your self-limiting beliefs first before getting on business. If I could give a piece of result, because when pressure comes, when the stakes get higher, it's those self-limiting beliefs that I think could nearly hold you back.
Definitely.
In the long run, right?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of successful business people that have spent copious amount of monies on little things like therapy and just doing the work on self to improve their business. It's nothing actually strategy. It's purely on self.
Absolutely. I agree. Well, that's because you are the one that really needs to drive the business forward. Whether you have a good day or a bad day or, any other day in between, you still need to show up and do the work. And I think someone shared, this is actually from a relationship perspective. She had recently navigated a divorce, and someone said to her, make sure that you walk out on a good day. When you are sitting down, where you like made pancakes with the kids, and you've had your morning coffee, you have not had an argument with your partner. That is the day. If you are okay to walk out on that day, that's when you walk out. And then we were talking from a business sense. It's exactly the same, because when shit gets hard, you want to quit. But then I'm like, if you really want to quit, do it on a good day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
when
majority of people will be like, no. Okay, now I'm in.
Yeah. It's so true. You're exactly right. And that's why, again, I really believe like the second point, confidence. So resilience, confidence. And number 3, probably a bit more strategy-wise, and this one I've been more passionate about probably in the last 2 years in particular, is training the art of communication.
Yes.
So I cannot believe how much learning how to talk has changed my life. Not only business, outside of business. So it sounds crazy, but little things on learning how to work on tonality, learning how to communicate a message. I used to do this thing called Toastmasters back in the day.
Okay.
It was like public speaking, like if you want to get out of your comfort zone, do Toastmasters. It's like trained public speaking.
Yes.
And the reason I believe being a good communicator is you need that in business is you could have all the strategy, you could have all the tips, tricks, frameworks, everything. But if you cannot influence someone to not only potentially buy your product, you cannot influence someone to come join your team to scale, it doesn't matter. If you cannot communicate, I agree. Will hold you back so much.
And being able to articulate clearly what you do as well. Like for me, saying the coaching world, some of the challenges my clients are navigating is to be able to clearly articulate what they do. So for instance, and even looking at like if they do a lot of talking to camera, like reels, for instance, and then maybe they are speaking about what they do, but then their body language is completely flat. They look in their eyes like, where is the charisma? Like, what is your body language like saying? How are you articulating your office? And I think that's really important. So what I started to do, number one, I think I have a bit of leverage. I grew up on stage as a dancer. I've danced my whole life and, put me on a stage and I'm like, so I know how to sort of work a crowd without saying a single word. Like through expression, being able to tell a story without speaking. And then once I got into coaching and sort of business and like I said to you off air, but when I worked at F45, I used to host this big like franchise induction. So I had to be really good at communication. So what I started to do, I started to film myself as I was talking to camera. And then I would turn my phone upside down and I would just listen to my tonality. I would listen to the way I was sounding and how I was explaining things without actually getting distracted of how I was moving my body. And then I would take the volume down and then simply look at my facial expression and look at my body language and see what am I actually saying? Because maybe I'm telling a really exciting story, but my body language is really flat. And the other way around. And I think you really need to learn to have both. What does your body say? What does your hands, gestures and your eyes and
100%. Well, that's what they say. Hey, it's I think it was 60% visual. I think like 30% kind of tone.
Yes.
And then the rest actually what you say is like made up of only like 5 to 7%. I forgot what the number, but it's a very small amount
That
of
is
actually
really interesting.
what you say. Yeah. It's actually visually what you're looking at, body language, open, smiling, things like that.
Yes.
And then tone made up another big portion of it. So
Yes.
I think, again, if you need to communicate an important message, being able to do that, I think will get you so far in business. And it's just one that I don't think people pay enough attention to because, yeah, if you're in startup phase, you're in the sales and marketing game, right? You have to be able to market yourself and sell yourself.
Definitely. And sometimes it's very minor. I'm kind of having a bit of a giggle now because I think when I worked in real estate, we used to have, this sales guy come in and, sit around the table, he'd put us on the spot and then we'd do some scripting. Yeah. But he was really big on the way we would finish a sentence. That never to finish, especially if you wanted to close a deal, never to finish like your sentence on like, sorry, this is what I have to offer.
Yeah,
it was like
on a high tone. Yeah,
so really
100%.
working on your low tone at the end, and like that is instilled in me now.
Yeah.
So every time, and all my clients now they would go back through my voice notes and go, and I will start being really excited, but then my tone will change.
Yeah.
And then
100%.
I will very intentionally add in some pauses in between what I'm saying and really making sure that my words, I guess, have some weight to them.
Got some impact. Yeah. The power of a pause.
The power of pause.
It's incredible.
Isn't it?
Why say 30 words when 10 can do?
So good.
I just believe, again, the ability to communicate a message effectively. People are losing their attention spans more. They don't have 30, 40 seconds to listen to you waffle on.
Yeah.
Give them a nice, clear, direct message.
And why do you think people get so uncomfortable in the pauses?
Because I think the pause is good because it brings uncomfortable thoughts and feelings because I love the term pattern interruptions. So a big one, if there's anyone in sales listening or real estate, for example, I'm big on trying to change the pattern, Hey Beck, it's so-and-so here. I haven't got you about very sales. It's just like slowing down, cool tone. Hey, I don't even know if I can help you or not, but and just trying to change. So it's like, just like, oh, okay, like kind of things like that. And why I think the pause is good because a lot of people try to fill space with more words and it doesn't let things absorb. And why it gets uncomfortable is I think good people in business use the pause if they're trying to create impact in sales, I guess when they're producing, fee or something like that. What we charge is X. Stays. And you sort of can read body language and just like, how's that feel for you, Beck? Like, and it's like, oh, must have felt a bit uncomfortable. So totally okay. Like, what comes to mind first when I hear that? And, you need to talk about it on the spot and communicate. So that's why I say if you're just someone who speeds up everything and talks in a high tone and never really has time for pauses, things like that, it's just like, whoa. Just like, can I just let it sink in for a second?
Yes.
So, I think just pausing, that's like you said, it's just a good, whatever you need to say, finish on a low tone and then pause.
Yes.
And then just kind of like, So it's and again, business has allowed me to learn that as I went on and I realized it is very, very important. Yeah. Very important.
Absolutely.
The art of communication.
And you really learn it by practicing and simply getting the reps in. Yeah. Get
Always
the reps in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And I think what I'm seeing, the people that are doing really well, they get the reps in and they will prioritize putting themselves in situations where they simply need to get the reps in.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you and I were to look back at some of our stuff, I'll cringe probably.
Big time.
But then we do it and we do it again and again and again and again. And that's that resilience, right? And I think a lot of both resilience and confidence, that comes from doing the reps. You're not going to feel confident on day one.
Yeah.
You're not going to feel maybe resilient on day one either. Maybe that actually comes from feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
One of my favorite frameworks is the competence to confidence framework. So confidence will come the more competent you become.
Oh.
So if you're trying to feel confident, I wouldn't be focusing on that. I'd be trying to focus on becoming more competent. because there comes a point on the axis where it actually tips and you're like, actually, I'm competent to the point it's subconscious now and I can do it. Now I'm confident. So, but in order to get confident, the only way is to get competent. The only way to get competent is doing the rep. So you actually have to suck for a multiple amount of times, and that can be months, years, whatever, before you get confident. So
I love that.
when everyone sees all these amazing, like a lot of my team love that when we jump in sales because they're like, but like they weren't there for the 2 years I was on my own, and I just call and talk to people and I did podcasts intentionally. So I did the reps and did courses outside of work, and it's just you don't know how much hours someone has put into something being confident.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. What you were saying around communication as well, what I think kind of flows onto that is also our ability to genuinely listen to people.
Yeah, 100%. That's a good one.
Like say less.
Yeah.
Really learn to listen. And I do this a lot in sales when I have potential clients, and you know, I do all of my sales inside of Instagram DMs. But I think what's so beautiful, and I see a common mistake a lot of business owners make, someone reaches out to say, hey, can I find out more about that? And they go, boom, all the information,
Here's
this is how much it is, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And they ghost.
Yeah.
You never hear from them again.
Yeah.
And my clients is like, why am I being ghosted all the time? And I'm like, show me your DMs, like show me the conversation that you have with your clients. And I'm like, you have just taken a verbal dump on your potential clients without even them being able to articulate what they want. And you have just lent in like an excited puppy dog, telling them all the details. And you're like, yeah, let's go. This will be so good. And they just, hey, relax. I just like gently inquired about something. So what I do in that moment, I pause, regardless of what people inquire about. I go, you send me a voice note with some info on your business and where you're at so that I can guide you in the right direction.
Yeah, 100%.
Based off that conversation, I then listen, what are they struggling with? Where do they want to move to? And what does that tell me? Exactly what they need. I can very strategically then place them like in a space that where they can actually grow.
Actually help and get the help they actually need.
Right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people get really caught up on the conversion. They share all of the details. That's another thing. People ask, hey, can you share the details with me? Well, what details are important to you?
Yeah, 100%.
Versus making the assumption that they want all the details. And I don't know if you've heard the saying like details kill conversion and how that perhaps even translates into like your field of work.
Yeah, 100%.
Because sometimes when you give too much details, it kind of puts people in a state of overwhelm. Maybe they get even like decision fatigue. What's your take on that?
Definitely. It's a really good point. And for an actionable, I guess, takeaway for someone, I think if someone wants to increase like conversions or things like that, like you're saying, obviously the art of the tonality, the communication is one piece, but then it's like if you can now combine what to say as well, that's where it's at. And I think you're touching on that really well, Beck, is like what to say. And I believe the best people who can get people to convert are the best question askers and listeners.
Yes.
You got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You should listen twice as much as you talk.
Yes.
And I really believe what you touched on there was one of my favorite frameworks around initial inquiries. Unless you have current pain and potential future pain, I do not even go further.
Ooh.
Because if I don't know where they're struggling at the moment or where they could potentially struggle, I might not have the option. And the biggest mistake novice business owners and people make is they want to be someone who can solve everyone's problems. Yes. You cannot.
You don't
and you
have
should
to,
not.
Yes.
You should not.
Yeah.
You should only be adding solutions to the people who actually need your help. So when you're saying the verbal vomit people, how are they meant to know if I can actually help? Like it's genuine help. You want to help.
Correct.
There's people you can't help by understanding what they're actually struggling with, what their current future pain could be. If it doesn't align, you're wasting not your time, but also their time.
Yes.
It's actually a disservice to that person giving your service to them.
I really love you touching on that because I say this to my clients all the time. Like there is nothing better. If I don't believe that I'm the perfect fit for someone, if I stay in integrity in that moment and say, but hey, let me help you find someone that can really help you. They kind of low-key want you even more because I've said, no, I'm not going to be the one for you. They're like, I don't care. I still want to work with you. But I think just the integral aspect of not needing to be everything for everyone and go, no, I think I can find someone better so you can actually have the transformation you desire.
Yeah.
So much power in that.
Huge, yeah. Massive. And if anything, it builds trust equity. They'll tell the friend, they're like, wow, Beck's really good. Like she actually couldn't help me, but she lent me someone who could. But the only way you can get that info is asking really good questions.
Certainly, yeah. I call it like almost having like a concierge experience in my DMs where I very intentionally want to place people in the spaces where they can genuinely like grow and thrive. And I make we were speaking before around how I structured my company around having, say, a foundational program where I really support them building their foundation. Imagine if I put them into like, let's 10x what you are doing. Let's build like your funnels and automations and like, let's like amplify what you are doing. But they don't even have a foundation. We are going to scale a disaster, which means that I'm doing them a huge disservice if I don't ask the right questions. I know that scaling and building out a funnel and all of those things, I know it sounds like really sexy. It sounds really fun to like, let's 10x. But it's actually not what they need. And being on the receiving end of that for my clients, when they're like, no, it would be too soon. We need to make sure that you have the foundation first. Like they find so much trust because they can feel the intention behind where you are placing your clients.
I love that.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is sometimes you have to sell people what they want and then genuinely give them what they need. So sometimes the person looking to lose weight, you need to sell them of the size 8 dress and things like that, but then you give them the discipline program.
Yes.
Because if you give that to them straight away, they're going to, that's too hard, right? So I think you touched a little bit on there is like sometimes why I love communicating again, you can listen and you can actually tell them what they need to hear, but then you actually have to genuinely give them what they need. And like you're saying there, you genuinely felt some of these people aren't ready for that program. Like you need to do this one in order to achieve your goals. So again, it's just, it's such a misconception in business that I want to work with this client and I'll make this circle fit into a square hole here for this person. It's just like,
it's not worth it.
It's not worth it. Just stick to who you can genuinely help.
Definitely. So you transitioned, obviously playing professional rugby, then transitioned into real estate straight away?
Pretty much, yeah. I did a bit of coaching in the sports space, but then transitioned into business, yeah. And why real estate? Yeah, look, it's a bit of an odd one. I played professional sport really straight out of school, so the resume was empty, right? And then during my rugby league career, I was always interested in property, and I grew up, had a Filipino mum and a Polish dad, and they were immigrants and lived very frugally and grew up in the western suburbs of Brisbane, so didn't grow up with too much, had enough and what you need, and had a loving household and great parents. But why I say that is my mindset with kind of money and things was that I was a saver. I was a good saver. Everything was, immigrant parents, right? Like,
for sure.
Had all the hand-me-downs and all passed down from my brother to save money. I had to switch all the lights off to save money. You know what I mean?
Yes,
so,
totally.
If I left the fridge open too long, my dad's in my ear. I'm like, whoa, so every penny counted. Why I say that is because as I got older, and like you're saying when I started becoming a professional athlete, I got there because of my work ethic and discipline from what I've seen in my parents. But then on the, I guess, more business and investing front, I wasn't going out and, blowing it at Shooter's nightclub and, buying booths every weekend. I just would save my money. And then I got into property like that. I was in a x-ray room in Burleigh having an operation and getting an x-ray, and I come across a property magazine, and that's where it literally started. So I started realizing the power of leveraging money. And then that's what got me into buying real estate for myself, investing. And then when my career was finished, my resume was literally empty. I couldn't get a job because they're like, well, yeah, you're a cool sports person and that, but like you got no experience.
Yeah.
I can operate Microsoft Word, but like unfortunately you just don't have enough experience. So
Yeah.
I actually struggled to get a job. So easiest job to get into was real estate. I did the 4-day course and I thought, you know, I love property.
Yeah.
And that's how it all came about.
Good. Yeah. I'm laughing because I can really see myself in this, because when I walked into my first real estate interview, I had a background in dancing. We're talking like ballet, like classical ballet.
Yeah.
And, you know, I moved to Australia like straight after dance school. And then I worked in hospitality, like pouring beers for like a couple of years. And then, you know, I was living in Sydney at the time, and I just remembered like walking the streets of like the eastern suburbs, and I'm like, I would love to live in that house. I would love to even just like go inside and have a look at that house and at that house and that house. And then I'm like, one day, like literally like $500 to my name. I'm like, one day I'm going to own one of them houses.
Yeah, I love that.
And then I'm like, so if I can't buy one of them houses, maybe I can just get myself in the environment of where I can actually start to just be inside of these homes.
Yeah.
So I walked into my first, kind of lied a little bit on my resume whatever else. But I got an in, and I sit down, and he sort of looks down at my resume and he goes, Rebecca, I'm really confused. He goes, if I read this correctly, he goes, it tells me that you're a dancer and you poured beers for a couple of years. He goes, you know, you've walked in to a job in real estate. And then in that moment, that was my moment of confidence, because I had literally nothing, like no experience. And I'm like, either in this moment I crumble or I'm going to turn this into one hell of a story where I'm like, I'm going to land this job. And I said, well, the reason I want you to hire me is because I am a dancer. And he was like, please explain, like so fucking unimpressed. And then I said, it's taught me my work ethic will like outwork anyone in this office. I said, because I have stood on stages and I have practiced and practiced and practiced
repetition
for hours. So I knew it did not matter how difficult the dance was. The minute I stepped out on stage, I knew that I would deliver. And I said, and I will do exactly the same in here. I don't care what task you give me. I will practice and I will study. And when you ask me to deliver, I will deliver. And he looked
he would have loved that.
He loved it.
Yeah.
And then I walked out, and then I was like, oh, fuck, maybe I just fucked that up. No. You know, I had a friend in the car, and they're like, what do you say? Oh, I told him I was a dancer. And it's, oh, no. And then I got a call 3 days later, and he said, I've never met anyone that backed themselves the way you did, with that level of confidence. And he said, you'll be a great asset to my team.
Love that.
And that really showed me that sometimes it's not about the experience. It's like we have a choice in those moments to like genuinely back ourselves. And that was my way in.
Wow.
I did not have the experience, but like similar to you, just to get in. And that's sort of how the journey starts.
It is. That's why it reflects kind of on that first question you asked me. Anyone can succeed in business if you've got the foundations of like resilience and confidence and unwavering belief in self, and doing things for a long period of time without getting the reward instantly.
Yes.
I think that's why I find a lot of athletes and people who are in industries where competing constantly and you got to get up after a loss and things like that. People in the army and navy and things like just very disciplined. They always seem no experience in business, but they seem to do well because of just the foundational things.
That. It's definitely pattern, isn't it? Whether you're an athlete or you're a dancer or army, navy, like my husband's a veteran, very much the same. So disciplined. And I think that is really the foundation, or like one of the major qualities that you need to really make it in business, right?
Like massive, huge.
One thing I heard you say when I believe you resigned from your job in real estate when you were starting your business, and you were really big on making sure that you did not want any money, like no security blanket to then start your own business. That's very ballsy to go, pay me nothing, I'm going to resign and go all in on my business.
Yeah.
Talk me through that. Why was that important?
Yeah. And look, it's probably a piece of advice I wouldn't give to everyone, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, I know, again, a lot of my success is because I back myself. I just back myself. And I was never the most talented with footy growing up. I was never the fittest, fastest, anything like that. But I'll just have a crack. I'll have a go. Give me a go. So I knew in life, I always seem to rise up when the pressure's on. So I gave myself, and again, just quickly on that, the reason is though, I've had copious amounts of years of performing under pressure.
Yes.
Like again, it's not like it just comes, it's like my whole life was performing under pressure. At training every single day, I had to perform under pressure because someone below you is trying to take your spot.
Yes.
You had to, in front of 40, 50,000 people, game on the line, I'll back myself to make the call or make the pass or make the kick or whatever it is. You perform under pressure, right? You just got to take the punt. So I did that. I noticed I was getting comfortable I had a job where after real estate, I was doing some coaching stuff as well. It was 4 days a week, had 3-day weekends, salary was good. Like it was great. Like it was so good.
Yeah.
And
comfortable.
Very comfortable. And I just felt I wanted to have a go at business. I've never had, as I said, my mum was a hotel cleaner. My dad was a garbage truck collector. And business obviously was not in the family.
Yeah.
So I thought I want to change the dynamic in the family. I want to be that one in the family who changes the course of our generational wealth for the people beyond me now. So I thought I'll give it a crack. I want to give it a crack. I've listened to some podcasts. I've read the books. What have I got to lose? So I knew though, if I stayed in my job and did the part-time side hustle thing, I don't know. I just needed to cut the income.
Yeah.
I wanted to cut the income. So I just cut it and didn't even have a client and just back myself.
So tell me about that. You did not even have a client. How do you hold the vision without the evidence of what you are trying to create?
Yeah. I mean, again, why I love communication and confidence, I think it's something that's energetically passed on to other people. When I started telling people what I was doing, they felt so confident in what I could deliver that they backed me, even though they knew I had no experience. It's just like, I've done this a lot for myself, like buying houses. I know the process. This is what I'm building, exciting. I will be charging more once I get the runs on the board. So there's an opportunity now where you can trial service, give me feedback, things like that. So
beautiful.
Yeah. So I that was my strategy when I started. It was just like I had to out enthuse people with the experience part because I didn't have any business experience and stuff. So it was just I just backed myself. And one little tip that's always stuck with me strategically, I think in that startup phase, was an approach I call like the lost lead process. So what that is if you're a startup business, sometimes taking a loss on the lead early on in terms of potential revenue. So I did a few discounted fees early on, but what I said was in return, I'd love a testimonial. I'd love some feedback on the service on how it could be better. And I'd love for you to, if you enjoyed it, to tell, 2 or 3 friends or family.
Beautiful.
If you think it's great. Is that all right? And they're like, yeah, 100%. So even though at the time, it's not the usual fee, it's like you get it on the back end kind of thing. Yeah. So that was just something I heard someone, it's always stuck with me for any startups is potentially that could be an option just to get some feedback on the service too.
Well, the feedback and that credibility, especially in the beginning stages, like building that credibility. I think
testimonials and stuff.
That's a huge way of doing it.
Yeah.
And I think on top of that as well, like when you even set the expectation for what that partnership, like this is like giving them very tangible things of what you like in return versus like, hey, just tell friends. Like it's like, hey, if you can share your feedback and write me a testimonial and tell 2 to 3 people about my services, I'll be so grateful. Like giving them a very specific deliverables, I guess.
Yep.
So it's clear to them. I think that has also
100%.
been an important aspect.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it again comes back to that again, I knew I'd deliver on it. It was just like a confidence thing. But again, going back to the confidence thing, you know, it's just like I did the reps in my own personal property stuff too. So I had that. That's what I mean. It's just like you got to do the reps. You got to do the work.
Definitely.
You know.
Yeah. I really love that. So it seems like you've scaled your company pretty quickly. Like you are low-key taking over the Gold Coast, which is the best. And, you know, you're building your own brand, and I can see you're pouring so much into your team as well. And I think it is so refreshing to see a business owner pouring so much into the staff and even the quality of your brand. And I can see from afar looking in, I can just see the growth and perhaps even the trajectory of what's coming, because you're very much still up and coming, like a few years in the making, right? What would you say has been like one of the biggest, skills or traits that you've taken with you to be able to scale your company so quickly?
Yeah. I would say number one, first thing that comes to mind is you need to create a vision and purpose big enough that other people's vision and purposes can fit inside. So
tell me more about that.
What I think is I'm trying to create something where if I want to, they say like if you want to go somewhere, go alone. You know, if you want to go far, bring people on the journey with you. So I've always believed, but what's going to entice people to come on the journey if they're not hitting their own personal goals and what they want in their life? So big one for me is understanding the needs and wants of the people who are willing to jump on the bus with me. Because what's stopping them doing it themselves, or what's stopping them doing it for another organization? So before I started the business or on the journey of business, this might help anyone going through that, maybe 1 to 2 employees. Now they want to maybe 5 to 6. Yeah, that's sort of startup, but slowly getting a few people. I used to call around a lot of other agencies when I noticed someone left. And I'd jump on the phone, I'd call the person straight away, even if this was not on the Gold. This is like anywhere in Australia. I had a good network of different people, and I was like, I heard so-and-so left. I'll give them a buzz. I'd call the person that left and I'd say, hey, can I borrow 5 minutes of your time super quick? I just want to know if it's all right with you. Are you able to share like the reasons, like the key reasons why you left XYZ?
Wow. I love that.
I did that all the time.
Okay.
And I'll tell you the common trait.
Yes.
The common trait was it was never about money. It was I wasn't growing, number one. It was I didn't feel valued and appreciated. And the third one was that it was a bit bickery. The culture was a bit, I got to watch my back.
Ooh, a bit catty type thing. Yeah, okay.
They were the big ones.
Wow.
Money was, some of them mentioned it here and there, but it wasn't the main thing ever.
Interesting.
It was always, it was like they could see a ceiling and their headbutting it.
Wow.
Yeah. So for me, I took that and then did some research on some of the top entrepreneurs who've scaled businesses, things like that. They're always creating visions where everyone else's goals and visions can fit inside. So I want to make sure my team, what are their goals? And you only know that through asking the question. Some managers and I guess business owners might not have even asked their team, what do they want? What's going on in their personal life? Like, so it's understanding those things. And then it's like, cool, now that I know that, I'm going to make sure I'm going to create a space for you to be able to hit that. So there's no ceiling on that.
Wow.
So I'm always constantly trying to check in with them and trying to get better at helping them hit their goals. Because again, at the end of the day, you build the people will build the business.
Love that.
So I think that's a big one with scale and things like that.
Build the people and the people will build the business. Incredible.
Yeah.
That's huge.
So it's just, again, and one thing on scale too, just because you see businesses scale does not mean it's for you either. Very, very different sport.
Yeah.
Very different sport. So what I mean by that is don't think more people equals more success. Don't think more headcount is more revenue. Don't think like all I'm trying to say is do what you want to do. Like you got to understand, like I think you said at the start around clarity and where you want to go, like maybe have some goals with net profit margins and take home. And because if you're hitting it with one person, well, then that's cool. Like,
Yes,
don't think you need to have a team of 30 people. Like,
yes.
yeah. But if you're looking for a certain goal that may require certain people, well, then you may have to do the scale thing. And this, on the way to scale, understand on the journey, are you a manager or are you more of a technician? So,
yes.
Yeah. So what I notice a lot, especially in the real estate space, there's some really good technicians. So they trade time for large amounts of money and they're good at what they do. But bring people around them, they struggle to manage the people because it's a different skill set to manage certain people.
For sure.
Yeah. So that's what I find is either you stay in your swim lane of being the good technician, maybe outsource a good general manager or operations manager or head of sale who can train the people. Someone that's going to actually nurture the people is important. Or kind of the journey I'm on, I'm slowly moving more towards coaching and leadership now because I get fulfillment out of that. That's my swim lane that I enjoy. So I'm now hiring people to deliver the technician work and things because they enjoy that.
Yes.
So it's kind of like everyone has to, what do you want? That's why it goes back to what do you want?
I really, really love that. And I think when I worked at F45's headquarters, I got called in for a meeting with one of my bosses and he goes, Rebecca, I want to have a chat with you. And we sat down and I was like, fuck, here we go. I'm in trouble. I sat down with one of my bosses at F45 and, I thought I was in trouble initially. And then he goes, what do you think you're good at? And I go,
it's a good question.
Well, and I was like, I said, I think I'm quite good at communication. I said, I'm really good with people. I said, put me at, the front facing of the business and really good at building relationship communication. And I love speaking, marketing, and the business side of things. And he goes, cool. Just like straight face. And I go, okay. He goes, what do you think you're not so good at? And I was like, a few things. I said, I think it will probably be a waste to put me behind a computer doing like data entry. I said, don't get me wrong. Like I love a good spreadsheet. I said, but I don't think that is where my skill set is, best inside of this company. And I was like, I'm sorry if I've done anything wrong. He goes, no, you haven't. He goes, I just really want to make sure that I am creating a role for you inside of my company so that you can shine.
Love it.
He goes, I want to remove everything that you believe that you're shit at so I can now craft a role for you so that you can shine every single day.
Love that.
And I was like, wow. Like I left and obviously they crafted this role where I was running, the franchise inductions and I would be presenting and I was speaking about marketing and I was traveling Australia and, really communicating, building relationships with, hundreds of franchisees. And it was the best thing for the company because I could really play to my strengths. And that has really changed the way I've been looking at hiring even of like maybe one job description isn't necessarily one person.
100%.
Maybe it's two.
Yeah.
So I really love that you share that.
Yeah, 100%. And same thing there, like I could see it in your eye, like you would have felt valued in that moment as well, right? And like that's exactly right. It's like this organization cares about me.
Yes.
And that's why you're asking around what's important with people, I think, is that ability to actually check in on them and ask them. And again, I get it wrong. Everyone gets it wrong, right? You can never be perfect.
Of course.
I think, again, from my little experience and those calls I used to do, common theme was always that sort of stuff. They were getting bogged down in stuff that they didn't enjoy and things like that. There's a really good concept and book that I swear by to everyone. It's called Buy Back Your Time from Dan Martell. Yeah, it's one of my favorite books. Isn't it great?
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, just great book to understand the value of your time and
definitely
the ability to buy back your time and again, like you were saying there, the ability to like outsource things not in your enjoyment swim lane.
Yes, absolutely. I heard you say something about the 90-day work sprint with the 1-2 rule.
Yeah.
Can you please tell us about that? Because I'm loving this.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite framework I've introduced in my life. I've been doing it for a few years now in business, and hands down has changed my life. So long story short, obviously there's 365 days in a year, 12 months. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So 3, 6, 9, 12. There's your work quarters, so your 90-day sprint. So put simply, you got quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. What I do is a 90-day sprint. All I focus on is that 90 days with the 1-2 rule. So it's mid-quarter, take a break, 1 to 2 days off. Ideally, somewhere you could even drive to, something like that in your city or neighbouring city. Like we're here on the Gold Coast. I love like Byron Bay or Noosa or, something like that. 1 to 2 days, mid-quarter. So at about the 45-day mark, and then 1 to 2 weeks at the end of the quarter, ideally in a plane. I love going on a plane.
1 to 2 weeks, completely off or still plugged in a little bit?
I mean, depending where your business is at, obviously. So when it was just me on my own, obviously it was probably more 1 week.
Yes.
And I did my best to switch off, but there was the odd times.
But you still went away though?
Still always.
Yes.
Yeah, took the laptop. 100% change of environment is so refreshing. So that's how I've broken up my years still to this day. So I'd get at the start of each year, get the calendar, them little books you get at the newsagent.
Yes.
And I'd literally map out all 4 quarters and I'd put in purple highlighter, whatever highlighter I had. I'd put in the 1 to 2 day getaway. And then I put the 1 to 2 week getaway. And then I tell my EA, essentially they're my holidays, ready to go, all locked in. And then each quarter I'll book the next quarter destination.
Huge.
Always. And I kid you not, that 90-day 1-2 rule has changed my life in terms of 2 key reasons. Number 1 is energy management. So what I learned as an athlete, there's an on season and there's an off season.
Yes.
You're a professional athlete full time, but you do not play and train every single day of the year. Otherwise you'll burn out. And I don't know why business owners don't apply this to their skill set. You need to rest. You can go hard, don't get me wrong. Just like an athlete though, you need to recover. You need to do ice bath. You need to have your shakes. You need your nutrition dialed in. So I see that with business owners too. They're so good at working hard, but then where's the recovery? Where's the rest kind of thing? So you need to be able to rest. And then number 2 is the creative joy and fulfillment I get out of a different city or not the same kitchen. Just get away.
Just get away.
I heard you saying you did a book retreat or something. 100%. You're your creative ideas come when you're not in the same mundane environment. I love the Gold Coast so much, but
so do I. Yeah,
it's good. How good is it to stay in an Airbnb in a different city?
So good.
Just feel so invigorated.
Definitely, I can really see that, and I think I went away for 3 nights, so 4 days, 3 nights, and that's the longest I've been away since I became a mum 7 years ago. So it was a big thing for me to go away, and even what I noticed, because it's so rare that I do go away. It took me a good 24, 72 hours for me to
tap in and
settle. The first, I got there on the Thursday. The Friday was slowly settling in. On the Saturday, I was I'm good to go.
Yeah.
But I really needed time.
Yeah.
To let my body, my nervous system, my brain, really switching off.
Yeah.
And I think we spoke off air before that we can talk business all day, every day. And,
yes.
My husband asked me, he's like, you're just going to go away and not work for a weekend. And I'd be like, that's kind of the worst thing you can actually tell me. I said, because my dream holiday would be to do a getaway workshopping where you just talk business
retreat.
type thing. But I think it's really hard to switch off.
Definitely.
And I think what's really helped me lately is actually reading because it just takes me off the business mind and I need to be present with the book.
Yeah. So true. Yeah, you can't multitask reading a book, eh?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And I think, but it's so important with the whole burnout thing because I know that a lot of business owners, we are really good at working hard. That's not the problem. But how do we actually find the balance of, because our to-do lists are endless. our
Always.
vision has like no finish line. You know, we hit a goal and then it's like now off to the next and off to the next and off to the next. So like how like do we find that balance? And I think when I heard you say that, I think it's such an important piece of the puzzle.
It's huge. It's what I always say in my diary, I highlight it, intentional pit stops. It's intentional.
Yeah.
It's not if I get time. It's not when things slow down a bit. It's you're carving out time just like you carve out time for marketing, carving out time for sales call, whatever. You're carving out time for holiday, joy, rest, whatever that looks like for you. Like it is part of my business plan is those and how fulfilling is it to say, you know, go on like 12 holidays a year? Like, you know,
So
but it's not that hard. Like some of them are in Byron. I spent $80 a night, just a little joint.
Yeah,
like, you
right.
know, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be 5-star and things like that. So
For sure.
it's just the ability to get away. And the biggest cherry on top is the art of looking forward to something is
Yes.
game changing, like game changing. And there was a really cool study. This is where it hit home for me was that they did a study in people's brains around when they receive an item and when they receive an experience. And the dopamine and serotonin, like the levels were astronomically different. So when you receive like the nice new watch or the new car, it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I love fancy things too. But the it drops dramatically after only a short period of time. So it's like a huge spike and then it kind of, because there's always the next new car, the next new watch, the next
iPhone,
something.
all the things. Yeah,
it's
totally.
cool. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for it. But then they said experiences though. The dopamine is in the lead up.
Yes, because you're looking forward to it.
The dopamine and everything stays during because you're experiencing the good food and photos. And then it lasts after because you can reflect back. You know there's an end date, so you know it's coming. It's not going to last forever, so you appreciate it in the moment. But then you've got photos to reflect back on and memories to savor with. So it was essentially saying the importance of putting money towards experiences over things from a chemical point of view as a person is way different.
Wow. And what I'm hearing is like you are treating this like any other important meeting in your calendar.
Huge. Yeah.
Whether you're meeting with your accountant
It's
or going on a holiday,
non-negotiable.
it's like equal.
Yeah, it's non-negotiable. It's all carved out already. Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I need to ask you a couple of property questions because
of course,
otherwise.
of course.
If someone is looking to invest
Mm-hmm.
on the Gold Coast or perhaps wherever they are located, what would be some of the key factors you should consider if you are currently living in a home, maybe you are renting or maybe you own the home that you live in and you are looking for that first investment? What are some of the key points that you should consider starting that process?
I think number one is organising. I say this, all right, I'll put it in 2 buckets. First bucket is for never bought anything. And the second bucket is maybe someone's got a property and they want to now invest. Number one, the first bucket, like very inexperienced, I say focus on how to buy, not what to buy.
Yes.
So what I say with that is that so many people put emphasis on like where to buy, what location, what type of property, things like that. I say, whoa, hold on. Focus on how to buy first because if you don't understand that, as we spoke off air as well, like things can happen quick. And if you don't know some of the little ins and outs, like you can put a lot of stress on yourself, right? So, yeah. So for first home buyers and first time investors, it's just like know what to do in that scenario. So who do you talk to? Okay, there's a broker or bank. You need finance. Is it chatting to like a buyer's agent to understand like the dwelling type, the location, solicitor, building a pest, property manager? Like you just got to kind of figure out all these people, get connected with them. They're your team going to be ready for when you do like finding what to buy. But if you don't know how to buy, like how to write a contract, how to look at a contract and know what you're even looking at, and how to even talk to an agent, for example. Like there's so many little things.
Sure,
just
right?
do that first. I always put the analogy, it's like riding a bike with training wheels. Like you didn't just ride the bike straight away. Just try with some training wheels first. Take the training wheels off. I put the training wheels off as the time you're actually putting offers in. So don't even put offers. Just get on the training wheels, do it a few times. put some lowball offers and just feel what it's like to do that thing and get the call back.
I like that.
Yeah, just do that. For the people who have gone through, maybe they bought out, now they're looking to invest and things like that, I always say, in order to make money in real estate, firstly, it's a get rich slow vehicle, number one.
I love that.
It's not something risky like a Bitcoin or something where, look, you take a punt.
Yes.
The commodity is shelter. So it's very, that's why they say the term safe as houses.
Yes.
But with that, you're not going to get rich overnight, but you can get dramatically wealthy in the short to medium to long term, like very wealthy. So what I say there is how you get that wealth is through something called capital growth. So capital growth. So capital growth is derived 80% from the location.
Yes.
Yeah. So I believe location does 80% of all heavy lifting with a property's asset value. So I always, always, always tell everyone, make sure you can try and get in as well location as you can. And sometimes these locations aren't where you live.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah. So it is a bit of truth to the saying, like, buy the shittest house on the best street type thing.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just get in.
Yep. I'll use an analogy super quick. Like I was learning all this. I was hearing all this and all the investors I looked up, were talking this way. Worst house, best street, like ugly ducklings. So I was looking for areas where migration was coming in, but it was still needed polish.
Yes.
Bit rough.
Yes.
Bit rough. And long story short, in my early 20s, I invested heavily in I bought in Palm Beach early on, which was considered rough back in the day, but even parts of Brisbane in like Logan, Deception Bay, some of these areas that were like, man, you're crazy. Like what? I just looked at a map though of Brisbane and I looked at my affordability at the time and I was like, I want to try and get as close to where all the population is for as cheap as I could, but still areas that were like within vicinity. I had the transport to Brisbane, things like that. Anyways, fast forward, they have all been my best properties that have enabled me to scale the portfolio. All these worst house, best streets. I'm talking 3-4 bedders, bit rough around the edges, single standard family homes.
Yes.
Very normal.
Yeah.
Ordinary houses for ordinary people.
Yes. Oh, I really love that. And then using the equity to then leverage and buy more real estate.
Exactly.
Am I on the right track here?
Yep. So the biggest 3 key pillars that I look for is number one is you got to make your money on the way in. So so that comes in the negotiation. So if something's worth 300 and you can get it for 250, for example, I'm talking numbers back with Logan back in the day. They were literally, I got some in the 2s.
Wow.
Straight away, I got equity of say 50K. If I got it for 250 and it's worth 300, that's 50K equity straight away. So that's number one, is buying below market value through negotiation. Number 2 is improving equity through cosmetic renovation. I never buy things that are fully done up, and the reason is because I don't want to pay for the owner's sweat equity.
Yes. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I like to buy things where, hey, it's rough around the edges, but I know paint, carpet, fan, blinds, it costs a bit, but then the equity, what it's worth after I do that, net position is far greater. So I remember one of them I spent around 30 grand max, but on the net position, it probably made 160 within the first few months.
Wow.
Because I just polished a turd.
Yeah.
And then that's that equity piece from what it's worth now. That's what's called equity. You grab that and then go again. And so that leads me to my third point. So it's buy below market value, buy things where you can manufacture your own equity. And then the third one is buy things where it's going to have steady rental supply because you're renting them out.
Yeah.
So you might have nailed the first 2 things, but if they're in mining towns, things like that, they're driven by one industry. So as soon as a lot of people got this wrong, right? And that's why I never touch mining towns and things like that. Looks good on paper, but as soon as that industry is gone or they move, it happened a lot in Gladstone, like the yields were off the charts and then they just left.
The demand is not there anymore.
Not the demand's gone. So always, that's why I say location, try and stick to capital cities or as close to capital cities as you can, or big hub regional cities, because there's always going to be people wanting to live there. So you need to have tenants fighting over your property at any one time.
Yeah, I can really vouch for that. We bought an investment now coming on to 2 years and got passed in at auction. I was actually the highest bidder at auction, and I knew that the owners had already bought, so they were actually desperate to sell. And I went away, actually checked in at the Langham, and the agent was just calling me like, come up. And I said, no. And we didn't budge. And then we actually bought the house, like freestanding up in Broadbeach, like 4-bedroom house with a pool, like just around the corner from Pack Fair, just incredible.
Wow.
And we put about 70K into renovations.
Yeah,
and
love it.
Like the value, we got a value from the bank, like not even from an agent. And, banks are quite
very conservative.
As well. And, that's gone up 400K in just, less than 2 years, 18 months. And we knew that we nailed that. Yeah. But I think the key part for us, that it wasn't so emotional of buying at auction 100%. Of there was not an emotional attachment to needing that. So I think really learning, especially from an investment perspective, removing the emotion.
Oh, it's numbers, right? At the end of the game, it's that's what I always say. You got to know your numbers, number one, and number two is like buy with. Again, I would never live in most of the properties I own. Wouldn't go near them. But they're vehicles to generate wealth. It's I don't care about living there. So that's what people forget, and that's why I say sometimes it's not where you live that's going to make the most money. It's you've got to kind of think differently. Just like a business, it's a business. I treat all of my properties like it's a businsiness entity. It's P&L, like profit and loss,
for sure.
Expenses, income, stuff like that. So I think that's what I've noticed the best do. They literally treat it like a business.
Yeah. My last question for you. Do you think if you don't have to sell, should you sell or should you just hold?
Yeah, this is what I say. If you sell, depends what the opportunity cost is on the other side. So what I mean is, I have not sold anything to this day, but I will at some point to pay down debt is one reason I would sell. So potentially you bought property for the sake of capital growth, for example. Like there's a few on the coast that I bought well under market value, probably negative cash flow, but bought them so good, equity's gone up a stack. I'm using that to just pay down some of the other ones I'm going to keep.
Oh,
that makes sense.
Yes,
so that's why I would sell. So I also don't believe, you hear people say never sell. I don't believe in that either. Like some of the properties I'll buy for this, I bought it, I'm going to hold this for probably 2 years, and I'm selling it to pay down debt on another one that's going to release cash flow to improve my lifestyle, right? So that's one time you would sell if you're using it to pay down debt. Number two is it to create a better opportunity? So some people I've spoken to in the past, they've bought a few properties, but they're not really doing much.
Yes.
So by holding those properties, you're actually detrimenting the potential growth in other properties that you're missing out on because your borrowing capacity, because you're stuck with these 3 properties.
Because you can't service
it.
Yeah.
So you're better off wiping them, take your losses, and then put it into more performing things. So don't always think you need to hold on to your properties. So, but I definitely believe the buy and hold strategy is a very strong one. But again, at the end of the day, I see this a lot too. What's the point of having hundreds of properties for the sake of having hundreds of properties?
For sure, if they're not generating, of course.
Like what's the, and is it the dream home? Is that opportunity maybe not invest? Is it finally you've created enough passive income and net asset wealth that you can sell your whole portfolio and finally move debt-free into the little island in Mexico that you've been dreaming of? Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why I'm like, I love what you said earlier. Like, what's the why? Like, what is?
Yeah, like why are we doing it?
And I see that a lot in property. I'd speak to a lot of investors scaling. I speak to a lot of business. So it's always more. Driven people, there's always more.
For sure. And I often say that there are a million different ways to $1 million and beyond, and you get to pick the way that genuinely works for you.
100%. Yeah. Don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20.
For sure.
And I just think, because I'm sure you get a lot of business owners and savvy people listening to this. And one thing that's always stuck with me at home is like, successful people are successful because they're driven, right? And they're always going to be climbing the mountain. And the mountain, once you reach the peak, there's a new peak.
Yeah.
And the peak just keeps going.
Stops.
So just remember to enjoy the views as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I have absolutely loved having this conversation. I feel like we're going to just keep going and keep going. Thank you for making the time to come and have this conversation with me. I think my listeners will absolutely love this conversation. Awesome. I'm going to leave all of Matt's details in the show notes. And thank you for tuning in for another episode. I cannot wait to be back here next week for another show.
Thanks, Beck.
Thank you.
Cheers.